Hello, 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 and welcome to the Soul Alignment channel. So, I'm doing this live um, to talk about. So, it's kind of like a part two to the live I did about my mom and just how she showed up in life and how her experience was, and just how I viewed her, you know, growing up. And so, in that live, I talked about how, you know, I watched people mistreat my mom, how she was the black sheep of the family, and how I watched people mistreat her. And one thing that I always respected about her was her love for people. And in that live, I referred to it as unconditional love. And after doing that live, I wasn't expecting so much to come up for me when I was guided to talk about it. And then after I talked about it and I went back and I rewatched it, I just kind of evaluated from this this perspective where I am now, and my knowing and my understanding and my awareness is different from when I was growing up, you know, and how I view things then. But one thing that still remains the same is just how much I was able to see my mom, how much I was able to see her beyond her wounds. I was able to see her and love her beyond my own wounds and see her beyond hers. And she wasn't able to see me or love me beyond her wounds. So, what came up for me that night was recognizing that what I looked at as unconditional love was a wounded love. And I was shown how there's different types of love. And for me, for me, um, in the past I didn't know that. It was just like, you view love as what you've been taught love is. You know what I'm saying? And if you don't know any better, you only going off of what has been shown to you, and then you show up that same way. And so as I reflected on just the past of how my mom showed up and how she loved me, that love didn't always feel good, you know? Were there moments that I feel my mom showed up as her, from her essence, from her soul? Yes. But there were more moments where she showed up from her wounds, and loved us and loved others from her wound. So what came up for me that night, um, my soul showed me that my mom has been loving from her wounds. And so I wrote this down, and I entitled it The Wounded Love of My Mother. So watching my mom as a kid, I viewed how she showed I viewed how she showed love for people as unconditional love. In my life, a couple of days ago, I realized that I didn't want to say that I cut my mom off, because I realized that the younger version of me is still holding on to hope that she will come around. to being a better version of herself. I used to think the way my mom was showing up was impure and genuine love, but I realized that love was a toxic love. The love of the divine is pure. It does not hurt or make you feel guilt or shame. I wrote that, and I'm trying to see because I think I wrote something else too. Mm, maybe that's it. Oh no, that's on the other page. I was always able to see her past my wounds and love her beyond my wounds. But she was never able to see me past her wounds. The love of my mother was a wounded love, a abusive love, a manipulated love. It was the only love she knew. My mom was not able to my mom was not able to alchemize her wounds. I realized the level of strength within me to do the things that my mom couldn't do on or her mom couldn't do or my grandmother or great grandmother. It's all about me because it started with me being able to rise above the hurt and the pain that was created by people who was supposed to love me with pure love. But they could only love me from their wounds, the wounded love that was passed down. So I wrote all that down after my meditation when my soul showed me. In the first live that I did talking about this, when I went back and watched it, I realized I wasn't speaking from this version of me. And I mentioned before how we have to start to pay attention to what version of us is showing up. Because even though we have grown and evolved into, like, even though I have grown and evolved into this version of me that's very aware, um, that sees things differently, that has tapped into her inner knowing, has tapped into soul wisdom. Even though I have evolved into this version of me, the past versions of me still exist within me who have been hurt, who have been wounded. And healing does not happen overnight. It's not like you just heal from one thing and then you're healed from all things. Healing happens in layers. And healing happens from different areas of your life in a time that your soul is saying that, hey, it's time to let this go. It's time to heal from this. It's time to evolve from this. I know that I still have a lot of wounds that was created from the way that my mom loved me, the way that she showed up. And so um I know there's a lot of healing that still needs to happen there. There are still versions of me, younger versions of me, that still holds out that hope that my mom will finally get it, that she would be that safe space for me, that she would, you know what I'm saying, show up and do these things. It's my responsibility as an adult and as this wiser version of me to tend to those wounds because I know from what I see that that's not going to happen anytime soon. So I'm not going to sit around and wait for that moment to happen for my wounds to be tend to. I have to tend to them. And so in the moment of me talking about these things, you don't realize that they're there until you wake up and you begin to speak about something. So like I was guided to talk about my mom, or I had been thinking about her like when I was younger and how she showed up and how people treated her and how I viewed her as loving people unconditionally. But what my mom really was doing was pouring outside of herself from a wounded love. Like she was doing these things because she was trying to, like, this was her way of trying to get people to see her and love her the way that she wanted my grandparents to, you know, the way she wanted her siblings to. So, in growing up and experiencing these things, what I experienced was as long as I was doing what my mom wanted me to do, or, you know, it was in that energy, then everything was fine. But the minute that I went against what she wanted or how she thought I was supposed to be showing up, then there was this these wounds being created. There were these wounds being created. And so it wasn't until I began to do my inner work, start to love on myself, to really tend to me, to really lean into the divine love, that pure love, that unconditional love, like to just be in that energy, to fully embody that energy. It wasn't until I came into this space that I realized that this wasn't love at all. It wasn't a healthy love. You know what I'm saying? It was a wounded love. Is what my soul showed me. Like my mom was loving from her wounds. Her mom was loving from her wounds. Her sisters loving from their wounds. They all were loving from the same love that was given to them. And the cycles just kept repeating itself until me. I began to break that cycle of that wounded love. And so, um, like that was very heavy. It was very heavy to come into that awareness. Like for my soul to show me that, like I cried this deep cry because I was like, wow, like I never thought about it that way. I never viewed it that way. How the patterns were continuing to repeat themselves, and even things that my mom had said to me, when stories that she told me from the past, the things that my grandma used to say to her, like she was repeating those same cycles with me. And I was breaking those cycles. I was breaking those cycles. But I I was shown how I was always able to see my mom past my wounds. I was always able to love her past my wounds. But she was never able to see me past hers or love me past hers. She loved me from her wounds. My grandmother loved her from her wounds. And even though I acknowledge, and I've said this many times, like, I don't blame you. You did the best that you can do with the tools that you had. But then I also have to honor the fact that even though I don't blame you, I still have to acknowledge how you affected me. I still have to acknowledge the ways that you showed up that wasn't always in a healthy way, you know? So when I was on there and I talked about, like, because I haven't talked to my mom since September. And when I was on there, I had a hard time saying, or I didn't want to say that I cut her off because I was like, that just sounds so harsh. But I realized that it was the younger version of me who didn't want to acknowledge the cutoff because that version of me still holds out hope that my mom will finally get it, that she would be that safe space, that me as an adult know that it just ain't happening. It ain't happening no time soon. So I had to go and sit with me. I had to go sit with that version of me and love on her and pour into her and tell her, like, hey, what you viewed as unconditional love or what you viewed as a pure love was not. That's not what that was. That's not what that was because love does not hurt. Love does not make you feel guilt and shame. Love does not manipulate. That is not pure love. That's not unconditional love. You know? So this journey is not easy. It's not for the weak. It's not for the person who don't want to face themselves. It's not for the person who don't want to be honest with themselves. It's not for the person who don't want to take the time to cater to those parts of you that is still wounded, that's still hurt, that's still longing for that mother daughter connection, that mother son connection, or, you know, daughter father or father son. You know what I'm saying? Like, as an adult, it's our responsibility to go in and tend to those parts of us that was wounded by by the love, by the wounded love of a mother or a father. We have to do the work. We have to do it ourselves. And I was like, yeah, that even for not just me, even for strangers, even for um my siblings, even for my mom's grandkids, you know what I'm saying, her grandchildren, it's the same thing. It's like, this is not what love is, but you don't know that until you truly, truly experience the love of the divine, like unconditionally pure love that no matter what you do, like, you still just feel so safe in that love. And I didn't always feel that. I didn't always feel that I can go and talk to my mom about anything. I didn't always feel that safety. And it's some hard truths that I'm ready to face that younger versions of me not ready to face. And I seen that in that conversation when I was talking about the things. It's like I kept thinking to myself every time I said she loved, I always like respected the way that she loved. And I realized that the way she loved, if she wasn't loving herself that way, or if she wasn't valuing herself that way, that was not unconditional love. That was not pure love. It wasn't, you know? So also in that live, I talked about how I was shown, no, I talked about in that live how watching my mom and how she showed up and how she let people treat her, how it helped me to rise up and decide that that's not gonna be my life. I'm not just about to let people keep walking over me, keep, saying whatever they want to say to me. Like, I'm not about to allow people to keep doing that, you know? And so I have done things that my mom was never able to do. Never able to do. And I was also shown not, I wasn't just able to rise up and do things that my mom wasn't able to do. I have frozen up and did things that my mom wasn't able to do, or her mom wasn't able to do, or my great grandma, you know what I'm saying? They was not able to do the things that I'm doing now. They put up with things that they shouldn't have been putting up with. They allow people to talk to them any kind of way. They allow people to, you know, treat them any type of way because it was family. Families stick together. You know what I'm saying? So they constantly tolerated things because the title, family, the labels, mom, dad, sister, cousin, brothers, like they allow those things to keep them in these relationships with these wounded loves, and it just kept being passed down. A wounded love, a wounded love. They all was loving from their wounds. They was all loving from their wounds. So when I was shown that I've been breaking generational curses in such a way, it was very overwhelming with emotion. Like gratitude, but then like wow, like they didn't, and they couldn't, or my mom won't, you know. Oh,